Today we will explore hydration mistakes and discuss effective natural ways to soothe discomfort while supporting your overall health. If you found this video helpful, please like, share and subscribe. Your support allows me to continue helping others. Thank you. My trusted friends Dr. Owen and Dr. Linda are joining me in today's presentation to add depth and insight to the discussion. I hope you will enjoy it.
Welcome to our deep dive, and today we're joined by Dr. Barbaraoneill. We're going to be talking about something that maybe we all take for granted.
Absolutely.
Which is hydration. We all kind of know that we need to drink water.
Yes.
And, there's all kinds of different guidelines out there. But I think even I was surprised by just how much more there is to it.
Definitely.
Than just, filling up my water bottle.
Yes.
So I'm really interested to kind of unpack some of this with you. So maybe we could just start with, why is this such a big deal? Why are we talking about hydration today?
So many people don't realize that it's not just about drinking enough water.
Okay.
It's about what's going on inside the cells. And that's where minerals like sodium and potassium play a crucial role.
Okay, so that's already something that I think a lot of people get wrong, myself included. I've heard so much about, lower your sodium intake, lower your sodium intake.
Right.
But you're kind of saying that sodium is actually a really important part of this.
Think about it this way. Oxygen, we all know we need oxygen to live right. It's essential. Well, water is the second most vital element that we need.
Wow.
And sodium comes in third.
Wow.
So it's that important.
Okay.
But we don't often talk about the positive side of sodium, do we?
Right.
We focus on the negative.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that. Where does sodium kind of fit into this whole picture of hydration?
Well, the key is the sodium-potassium pump.
Oh, okay.
This pump is working constantly in every single one of our cells.
Oh, wow.
To move sodium out and potassium in.
Okay.
So it's all about balance.
So it's like this little pump. It's like a little seesaw.
Exactly.
In every cell.
A cellular seesaw.
Okay.
And that balance is what allows water to flow into the cells.
Got it.
Where it's needed. So when we get out of balance, whether it's too much sodium or not enough potassium, that's when we start to see problems like high blood pressure or swelling in the body.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I know that Dr. Oneill is a big proponent of Celtic salt.
Yes.
What makes that different from just the regular table salt that most people are using?
Okay, so table salt is heavily processed. It's basically just stripped down to sodium chloride.
Okay.
But Celtic salt is a natural sea salt. And like other natural sea salts, it retains this broad spectrum of minerals.
Oh, wow.
About 82 in total.
Wow.
This includes 3 different types of magnesium, which actually attract water.
Interesting.
So it's very different.
So that's interesting. So you're saying that having a little bit of that kind of salt before you drink water actually helps your body to hold on to the water more effectively.
Yes, and it helps to facilitate that sodium-potassium pump that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And make sure that the cells are being properly hydrated.
So this kind of ties into the work of Dr. Batmanglage, who I know we've talked about on the show before.
Yeah. Yes.
And he's kind of one of the pioneers of really looking into, the importance of water.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about his work and how it kind of connects to all of this?
He coined the term drought management to describe how our bodies prioritize water.
Drought management.
Drought management.
Okay.
And the first place that really feels the impact of dehydration is the lining of the stomach.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily think about that. Now, Dr. Oneill talks about all kinds of things that you wouldn't think would be connected to hydration, like indigestion, joint pain, even mood swings.
Absolutely.
You're saying all of these things can be kind of connected back to not having enough water.
Well, think about it. If your body's not getting enough water, it has to ration.
Okay.
So it prioritizes. And digestion, while very important, isn't as crucial as, say, maintaining blood flow to your vital organs.
Yeah.
So the lining of the stomach, which needs moisture to function properly, is one of the first places to get cut off. So it's kind of like your body's saying, hey,
exactly.
I need some water here.
It's crying out for water.
Which totally makes sense. The title of Dr. Batmangelage's book is Your Body's Many Cries for Water.
Exactly.
But here's where I get a little confused.
Okay.
So we need sodium for hydration.
Yes.
But too much sodium is bad.
Right.
So how do we find that balance? How much is too much? How much is not enough?
It's really about the difference between types of sodium. It's not just the amount, but the source. So like that refined table salt you're talking about, that provides just a big hit of sodium all at once.
Right.
And that can disrupt that balance that we were talking about.
Okay.
But the natural sea salts, like Celtic salt,
Yeah.
provide a gentler and more sustained release of sodium.
Okay.
And they contain all those other minerals
Right.
that help your body utilize it properly.
So it's not so much about eliminating sodium.
Right.
It's about making sure it's not like the dominant mineral in your diet.
Exactly.
And choosing the right kinds of sodium.
Exactly. And that brings us to potassium.
Yeah.
Remember that sodium-potassium pump we were talking about?
Yeah.
It needs both to function properly.
Okay.
So potassium actually helps to counteract the effects of sodium.
Interesting.
And it further supports hydration and balance in the body.
And that's where we get that from fruits and vegetables, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And unfortunately, a lot of the modern diet is very, very low in potassium and very overloaded in sodium.
Right.
And this creates an imbalance,
Yeah.
which leads to so many problems, including high blood pressure.
So it's not just the table salt.
Right.
It's also that we're not getting enough of the other things
Exactly.
to kind of balance it out.
It's all about balance. And here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Dr. Oneill also points out the important role of vitamin D in this equation.
Okay, now I know vitamin D helps us to absorb calcium.
Yes.
But what does that have to do with hydration?
Well, calcium relies on that same sodium-potassium pump
Okay.
to move within the cells. So if we're deficient in vitamin D, our bodies can't absorb calcium effectively.
Okay.
And that throws off that mineral balance
Yeah.
even further.
So it's all connected.
It is.
It's all kind of a chain reaction.
Precisely.
You don't get enough water, you don't have enough potassium, you're low in vitamin D. It all kind of
It all affects each other.
yeah, it all affects each other.
Yes. And can lead to bigger problems.
Right. So it's not just, these are not just isolated things that are happening in the body. They're actually all related. So if we kind of try to simplify this a little bit,
Okay.
it sounds like the main takeaway here is that hydration is not just about drinking water.
Yes.
It's about making sure that your body has the right balance of minerals to actually use that water effectively.
You've got it. It's a holistic approach to hydration.
Yeah.
Recognizing that water is just one piece of the puzzle.
Which brings me to something else that Dr. Oneill mentioned that I found really surprising. She talked about the risks of drinking too much water.
Right.
I always thought more water is always better.
It's a common misconception.
Yeah.
While staying hydrated is crucial,
Yeah.
if you're flooding your system with water without replenishing those minerals that you're losing through sweat and urine, you can actually dilute your electrolytes and create an imbalance.
So even with water, there's such a thing as too much.
Exactly.
Of a good thing.
It's all about balance.
Yeah.
It's not just the quantity.
Right.
It's the quality and the context of your intake.
So how do we make sure that we're getting enough water, but also, maintaining that mineral balance?
Well, first and foremost, we need to be mindful of our water intake.
Okay.
We've all heard that 8 glasses a day guideline, but, individual needs vary depending on your activity level, the climate, your overall health.
So listening to your body is important.
And don't forget those electrolytes.
Right.
Incorporating natural sources of minerals like Celtic salt and potassium-rich fruits and vegetables is crucial.
Yeah, that tip that Dr. Oneill gave about having a little pinch of salt before you drink a glass of water.
Yes.
I thought it was really interesting.
It's a simple but effective way to boost those mineral levels.
Okay. And then, of course, vitamin D, we were talking about that.
Yes.
Getting enough sunshine.
Spending time outdoors is not just enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's vital.
Yeah.
For our vitamin D production and ultimately for our health.
So it's really about making these small changes that can have a big impact.
Exactly. It's about being proactive.
Yeah.
Taking charge of your well-being.
So it really sounds like it comes down to being aware of your body.
Yes.
And noticing those little signals that it's giving you.
Absolutely.
Because you were saying before that, some of these things that we wouldn't necessarily connect to dehydration. We think, oh, I have a headache, I need to take an aspirin.
Right.
But maybe actually you just need a glass of water.
Exactly. Or fatigue.
Yeah.
Or brain fog. So many things that we experience regularly can actually be traced back to dehydration.
So it's about kind of pausing and asking yourself.
Yes.
Instead of just, going for the quick fix.
Right.
Could this be my body's way of telling me I need some water?
Those cries for water. Dr. Batmangelich called them cries for water.
Yeah. It's so simple, but it's so powerful.
It is.
And I think for me, the biggest takeaway from all of this is that this is so much more complex
Absolutely.
than I think a lot of us realize.
Yeah.
It's not just about drinking water.
Yeah.
It's really about understanding all of these connections between water and minerals and your overall health.
Absolutely. It's a whole new way of looking at hydration and thinking about it.
Well, I know I'm going to be looking at my water bottle
Good.
and my salt shaker a little differently after this.
I'm so glad.
It is 99% water. In a state of dehydration, the body can take some water from there to maintain full blood volume in the major arteries and veins. And so if I have pain in there, maybe it's called arthritis, but actually maybe it's just a state of dehydration. Our eyeball moves around in water. So we need water at every single step. Also our lungs. Now at the bottom of our lungs, I'll draw you a small picture of our lungs so that you'll understand this. So here's our lungs here. That's one lung. So your trachea splits and comes down, and then it splits again into little bronchioles. It's quite a process. And then at the end of every bronchiole, looks like a little bunch of grapes, but they're alveoli. So at the end of the bronchioles, you've got the alveoli, and this is where the gaseous exchange takes place. Over every alveoli, there's a little blood capillary network, and it is in that blood capillary network where the oxygen is picked up from the alveoli, and the blood drops the carbon dioxide and we breathe out. In every alveoli, there's a minuscule droplet of water. And because of the surface tension of water, when you breathe out, that little alveoli collapses, which allows all the carbon dioxide, the majority of it, to be breathed out. So that now when you breathe in, you can breathe in more oxygen. In a state of dehydration, that little droplet of water is not as it should be, which means that doesn't totally collapse when you breathe out, which means you can't get your full quota of oxygen. But what also happens, the body, to prevent the water loss, it can start constricting the little bronchioles so that we don't lose water. And so one of the signs of dehydration can be constricted breathing. The blood gets very thick in dehydration. Our blood needs to be nice and thin so the heart can pump it easily, so that the little filtering units in our kidneys can filter it with ease. So water is needed for every single body function.